Hello again, welcome to the MasterCAM course. In that lecture, we're going to talk about 4-axis position and toolpath. So I'm going to use file and open section, and then actually we can also see the current documents here. I'm going to push the computer. At that point, actually, I'm going to click all files. At that point, I'm going to select SolidWorks file. Okay, this is my product actually. So that's product. It's and created by using the SolidWorks, and then actually I'm gonna use C plane. Actually, right C plane. I can use transform and rotate options. I'm gonna click my product, and then we can and use actually. I'm gonna cancel it. Okay, rotate, select my part, and we can write and that's degree. Okay, and then I can turn to top view here. I can click rotate again and select my part. I can actually select it. We can also rotate that part like this. Okay, I think that's okay. This is gonna be my actually BCS A0 position, A180 position. Okay, so this is my plane about that product. Actually, okay, this is x-axis. This is my rotary axis is the same, and then I can save my file. Okay, and then I can click my machine. Okay, let's create our toolpath. I'm gonna turn to wireframe options, curve on edge options. I'm gonna create some edge here to be able to create my and pocket toolpath. I can use the modify length options. For example, if you intend to use 10 millimeter diameter for your pocket operation, so maybe we can use the 8 millimeter extension or line like this. Okay, and then actually we can also turn to right plane again. Okay, this is my and C plane is a right. Okay, like this, and then we can turn to 2D and we can organize our Z position as a 8 millimeter again, and then I can create my line like this, clicking here, but that's gonna project here. We can also create that kind of line, or it's also easy, we don't have to do that actually. I can turn to 3D and then I can turn to top view, 2D, and maybe I should click here. This is my Z position, and then I can use parallel line options. That's also possible. Okay, so I can turn to 3D and 0 position. Okay, let's use endpoint options here to be able to get our rectangle. And then toolpath and pocket toolpath, of course. This is going to be my chain. That's going to be my tool. Okay, we already talked about that. And we can organize our tool diameter according to our process. Okay, let's talk about linking parameter. Can be absolute and 40, and fit plane can be incremental 5. Sorry, it can be 8 maybe 10. Sorry, and then incremental we need to calculate our top of stock. Maybe it can be 5 millimeter and 0. Okay, this can be conventional machining. I don't want to see any wall offset and floor offset here. This is standard pocket type. I'm gonna turn to and roughing process. It can be parallel, spiral, clean corner, and I'm gonna use outside to inside. That's why I can reselect spiral to inside options. I'm gonna use the ramp entry motion. I don't wanna use any finishing process. Okay, that's fine. Like this. Okay, maybe first of all we can turn to actually and right view again to be able to calculate that distance. That distance 7 millimeter. Okay, good information. And turn here and linking perimeter. It can be 7 to 0. I'm gonna cut that area. Of course, we also need to organize depth cut here. You can click here. Maybe it can be 3 millimeter and one final pass with 1 millimeter. Okay, that's fine. I get it. After that, of course, we can organize our plane like this. We already have bottom plane here, so I don't need to organize my and the VCS. So I can copy and paste here. Okay. Of course, if you don't like to create extra and rectangle for bottom side, you can also turn to right, and 2D or 3D is not important. And we can select our geometry and the transform and rotation, and then we can write our and the degree here with copy button actually, and after that I can turn back to top view again. Okay, so let's delete our chain and add new one. Okay, of course we can turn to our parameters to organize our tool plane. I'm gonna turn to bottom here and bottom here. At that point, if you don't like to see any and different working coordinate system, you can also turn here and make them 1. It's done. And then we can recalculate it. So that's my toolpath actually for A0. Our rotary axis is A0 and A180. Let me check that stuff first, and then I can keep going to create my operation. Okay, A0 here. Let me search here. Yes, that one. Okay, everything seems fine. Okay, let's turn wireframe and curve on edge options. I'm gonna create here and here. Okay, and then of course we can create that area here, mill toolpath and pocket toolpath. That's my actually chain. Maybe we should use the same tool here. This is my feed rate and cutting speed. And then I can turn to linking parameters. Actually, it can be retract position here. Okay, that is incremental. This is incremental, incremental 10 and incremental 0. Okay, we can turn here 0, 0 conventional machining, and we can use maybe true spiral, or we can also use the parallel spiral clean corner options here. It's not so bad for circular process, but in that part entry motion can be helix. I don't want to see any finishing process, or you can activate it. One finish pass is possible. Okay. Of course, at that point, I made some mistakes here. At that part, and leaking parameters must be 0, and that part must be -10. Okay. That's kind of operations we need. Of course, we can also turn on the wireframe options to be able to sure about our depths here. I can turn here and maybe home position and the distance. We can click, and that's one. That's 10 millimeter can be seen here. This is 0 to -10. I can make that part 5. Okay, that's good. And of course, I can copy here and paste here. I just need to change and our chain. I can click here and oops, delete that one and add new one. And then of course, turn to plane options. I'm gonna double click on the bottom part and then recalculate my toolpath. Okay, that's perfect. This is all about our 4-axis process. Okay, I'm gonna save my file. Okay, let's create and that circle. Actually, at that point, and maybe we should create some and CAM process. And before our CAM process, maybe we should create some and surface here. Okay, and let me analyze entities here. That one and that one is actually important. I'm gonna turn to and that's perspective here and 2D. Okay, that is front perspective, I think, and then 0. Okay, and then wireframe and curve on edge options. Okay, and then I can turn to top view again, and then actually wireframe, home position, sorry, and analyze it. Okay, this is the NURBS because of, and that's process, it's gonna turn to NURBS. But I can use and that stuff to be able to create my and real circle. Maybe it can be and 20 millimeter, maybe, I don't know. I can check. Yeah, 20, or maybe we should turn to 25. Okay, to be able to show. I'm gonna click here and maybe we should create some point here and the midpoint and here. Okay, we have 3 points here, so it means that we can easily create arc 1, 2, and 3. Okay, sorry about that. You click here 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we have some exact circle right now. Home position and analyze it. We're gonna see that that's all circle. Okay. Okay. And then actually we can turn to -25 here. And then we can create extra point here. And then we can create arc here. Okay, I think that's good. So surface and loft surface, I'm gonna create some loft surface here. Okay, good. Okay, let's create our toolpath. I'm gonna click right mouse button, mill toolpath, and surface finish toolpath actually. And we can create an parallel or follow line or contour toolpath. Okay, I'm gonna prefer to use contour toolpath here. I'm gonna select my face, one drive surface, no check surface, or no boundary. Okay, click OK. I can create my tool. My tool can be a tool with radius. Okay, this is my feed rate and that's my cutting speed. It can be incremental 5 millimeter, incremental 1 millimeter. Stock delete on the drive surface is going to be 0. And when we turn to actually and finish contour toolpath, I'm going to optimize cut order, conventional machining, and zigzag. I'm going to follow surface here and gap settings turn to distance. And that's part going to turn to 0. And we can click OK button. Okay. That's our toolpath. We need to organize our plane, of course. This is front, I think. That's why you're gonna see that's kind of and toolpath here. Okay, that's the good way to see your toolpath in a first time. Maximum step down, I'm gonna write 2. After that process, we can check out everything is fine. I can turn to top and 2D and Z position maybe here, or I can write 30 here, and then I can create my rectangle. I can start from here and here. Okay, that's gonna be my boundary. I can click here, select my boundary. I'm gonna recalculate it. So that's not possible to create that kind of toolpath. Is that right? So I can turn here. I can click the outside options. Okay, when I'm click the outside options, of course we can see that's kind of and process here. Okay, so we need to offset our and boundary, or we need to add extra check surface like this. This is my check surface. Okay, this is my check surface, and maybe we should also and add some check surface, or according to my tool radius, we can reorganize our surface. So I'm gonna turn to 3D here. I can create some line here, and then surface and rough surface here. Oops. When I am click the rough surface, I can turn to single options. Okay. And that's gonna be 3 millimeter and opposite side. And then I can create another line here and surface and the rough surface here. This is the single options. Okay, we need to change actually our and C plane here. Oops. Of course, before that we can change our and C plane and draft options that direction. It can be my tool diameter, maybe like this. Okay, and then I can delete that part. I can turn to top 2D and 30. And then I can also create some wireframe here. Of course, we can turn to 3D first, and then I can create some line here and rectangle options to be able to create my boundary. Of course, before that, we can turn to 2D. Can start here and here. And then, oops, I can cancel it. We can turn to chain. That's going to be my chain. I don't want to see the check surface here. That is my surface, surface, and surface. And then we can calculate it. Of course, we can also turn to surface parameter to center. Okay. And then we can turn to finish contour parameters 0.2 millimeter. Okay, that's fine. And what else can I say about that toolpath? And maybe we should also organize our and tolerance if you want, but that's it. After that process, of course, we can turn to on the right again with 3D. Okay, I can use the transform and rotate options. I'm gonna rotate that boundary and that surface. Okay, that's gonna be my degree and copy. I can clear all dirty operations after that process. I'm gonna copy and paste here. I just need to click here. We can reselect our face and we can reselect our boundary. Actually, boundary is okay. I don't need to change that. But yeah, that will be better for us to change it. That's why. I'm gonna turn to my plane and the bottom. And then I can recalculate it. Okay, that's fine. That's my toolpath 1 and toolpath 2 for our 4-axis. Okay, let me check my 3-axis or 3 plus 1 axis toolpath. This is actually called 3 plus 1 axis. Okay, this is A1. Let me check. Yeah, that one is okay. Actually, we can also say that, okay, but it's not necessary. I can change my working and working coordinate system VCS in our CNC, and then I can also get the DATS code, and yeah, I don't need to get and the extra code for and the DAT degree actually. Okay, this is the symmetric product, so maybe we can take only the DATS part. After that, we can change our and the working coordinate system on our CNC. You can also turn to our Udemy CNC course. We can also try to and talk about and that kind of stuff. Actually, you can get all that operations. That's one, and that's one. This is a 0, I think. Okay, without that one, and that one is a 0. Okay, I can create my toolpath, and then I can change my coordinate system, and in my CNC I just need to write A108 and work offset 0, and then I can and I can resend my code again, and we're gonna see the same solution. But we are thinking about that as a programmer, CNC programmer, and to be able to create that kind of different actually and the process. So okay, that's why. And I'm gonna work on and that stuff. This is the 3-axis, 4-axis, or 3-axis plus 1-axis example. Okay, contour toolpath. It's also possible to use the 3-axis process in your 4-axis. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciated your interest. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask me any question. My a big dream actually to be able to create huge community for engineering solution